This Boston cream pie is a light, tender sponge cake filled with vanilla pastry cream and topped with a delicious chocolate ganache. It is a classic cake that's full of flavor and always a hit. Hi, I'm Lindsay from Life, Love, and Sugar, and today we're making a Boston cream pie. Alright, so we're going to get started with the pastry cream. It's going to need time to chill and set in the fridge. The first thing you want to do is take your egg yolks and kind of gently whisk those together. Alright, so now we'll move over to our pan and we will add our sugar and cornstarch. We're actually going to whisk these together. It's just going to help get rid of any lumps or anything in the cornstarch so that you don't have lumps in your pastry cream. And once that looks smooth, we're going to add our milk. Alright, now we'll cook this over medium heat. And we want to keep stirring this until it starts to thicken and just starts to simmer. So we'll go ahead and take this off the heat, and we're actually going to temper our eggs and gradually add the hot milk so that we don't scramble our eggs. Just enough to heat the eggs up without scrambling them. And we can add it back into our pan. And now we'll put this back over the heat. Mix it all together. And then we are going to bring it to a boil this time. You want to make sure you're stirring continuously so you don't burn any little bits on the sides or the bottom. You only want to boil it for about a minute. That'll help thicken the pastry cream without actually breaking it down. If you boil it for too long, it can actually break down and it'll be too thin. Alright, so it's been a minute. We're going to go ahead and take this off the heat, and we're going to add our vanilla extract and a little butter. And we're going to whisk this together. All right, now at this point, we're going to go ahead and pour it into a separate bowl, and we can chill it and let it firm up. If you're concerned that it's going to have lumps or something in it, or maybe you can already tell that there's some lumps, you could put it through a strainer. All right, so we are going to want to cover this with a layer of clear wrap. And when you cover it, you want to press it all the way against the top of the pastry cream. This will help prevent a film from forming on the top of the pastry cream. So you press that down on top of your pastry cream and you are ready to refrigerate it until it's cool and firm. All right, so while our pastry cream is cooling and getting firm, we're going to make our cake layers. We're going to start by combining our dry ingredients. We've got our all-purpose flour, baking powder, and salt. Mix all this together. Now we're going to combine our sugar, eggs, and vanilla extract. And we are going to pop this on our mixer with the whisk attachment and whip it for about 4 minutes until it's pale, thickened, and fluffy. Now at the same time while that's going on, I am actually going to heat our milk and our butter together. We want these to be nice and hot when we add them to the cake. So we're going to heat them while this is whipping and getting ready so that it's hot and ready when that's ready. All right, so you can see it's really pale, it's nice and fluffy, it's definitely thickened. When you drizzle the mixture back in, it takes a second for it to reincorporate into the mixture. So that's what you're looking for. All right, so now we are going to add our dry ingredients. We're going to start off with about half. We're going to gently fold those in so that we don't deflate the egg mixture that we just whipped. All right, so now that milk and butter mixture from before that I warmed up, it's been sitting in the microwave staying hot, so we're going to grab that and add that. All right, now we're going to combine this gently as well. All right, so when it seems like everything is really well incorporated and you don't have any little pieces of milk or anything kind of running through here, you are ready to put it into your cake pans. All right, so I have two 9-inch cake pans ready to go. They've been sprayed with nonstick baking spray and they have a parchment circle in the bottom to help the cake not stick. So I'm going to divide the batter evenly between the pans. All right, so once you have all your batter in your cake pans, we're going to pop these in the oven for about 20 minutes. All right, so once you have your cakes baked and cooled and your pastry cream is chilled and ready to go, we can go ahead and make our chocolate glaze for on top. We've got our semi-sweet chocolate chips, a little corn syrup, which helps give the glaze a nice shiny look, and we've got our hot, heavy cream. So we're going to let this sit for a couple of minutes and then we'll whisk it all together until smooth. All right, now we can set this aside and put our cake together. All right, now we have our chilled pastry cream. And you can see that while it was still pourable and kind of soft before we put it in the fridge, it's now nice and firm. So it should stay put in your cake. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a stir and smooth it out a bit. All right, so I'm going to put this right in the center of my cake and then spread it out towards the edges. I do like to leave a little bit of a gap between the end of my pastry cream and the edge of my cake, just because even though it is nice and firm, when you add a whole cake layer on top of it, it is gonna adjust a little bit. And so that gives some room for it to spread a bit without it falling down the sides of your cake. All right, let's add our final cake on top. And now we can add our ganache. Push some to the edges depending on how much of it you like to see dripping down the sides. And there you have your final Boston cream pie. It is a classic, it's delicious and so good. You are going to love this. For the full recipe, head over to lifeloveandsugar.com.